Om Sadashiva-Samarambham Shankaracharya-Madhyamam Asmadacharya-Paryantam Vande Guru-Paramparam Shruti-Smriti-Purana-Alayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavad-Pada-Shankaram Lohashankaram Om Mandasmita-Mukham-Bhojam-Bhojaniya Gunarnam-Madhura-Vashinam Shantam Sarvabhutadayaparam Bhatta-Vatsalyam Jaladim Paramanandam Prapannosmi Nirmala-Jnana-Siddhaye Om Ganana-antva Ganapati-gum Havamahe Kavim Kavinam-Upamashravastamam Jyeshtarajam Brahmana-Brahmanaspatanashruṇvannoti-Bisidha-sadhanam Om Mahaganadhipataye Namaha Satyo Jatam Prapadhyami Satyo Jataya Namo Namaha Bhave Bhave Nati Bhave Bhavasvamam Bhavodbhavaya Namaha Vamadevaya Namo Jyeshtaya Namah Shrestaya Namo Rudraya Namo Kalaya Namo Kalavikaranaya Namo Balavikaranaya Namo Balaya Namo Balapramataya Namah Sarvabhutadamanaya Namo Manonmanaya Namaha Aghore-ebhyo ghore-ebhyo ghora-ghoratarebhyaha sarve-etasharva-sarve-ebhyo namaste astu rudra-rupebhyaha Tatpurushaya vidmahe mahadevaya dhimahi tanno rudra prachodayat Ishana sarva vidyanam Ishvara sarva bhutanam Brahmadipatir brahmanodipatir brahma shivo me astu sada shivo Namo hiranyavahave hiranyavarnaya hiranyarupaya hiranyapataye ambikapataye umapataye pashupataye namo namaha Harihi Om Ghato va mrutpindopyanurapi cha dhumogniरचलः पटो वा तन्तुर्वा परिहरति किं घोरशमनं वृथा कण्ठक्षोभं वहसि तरसा तर्कवचसा पदाम्भोजं शम्भो भज परमसौख्यं व्रजसुधीः.
In this session, we will begin Shloka 6 in Shivananda Lahari. In this Shloka, Shankara Bhagavad-Pada says, when it comes to reality, we can argue endlessly. In our culture, we use Tarka Shastram to argue. When I say argue is not the right word, to debate. Sometimes it turns into an argument. So we use Tarka Shastram to argue or debate. And lot of examples are quoted to understand the reality. We take the example of a pot and debate, is the pot the clay? Does the pot exist at all? What is the reality? Atoms are taken as an example. Smoke is taken as an example. So when you see smoke in a distant hill, you assume there is fire. So these are some of the examples which we use, which belongs to Tarka Shastram, to debate about the reality. And we debate endlessly about the reality. And here in this Shlokam, Shankara says, any amount of intellectual comparison, to debate you need knowledge, isn't it? You also need the intellect. Without buddhi, how can you debate? So any amount of intellectual comparison, will it free us from the fear of death? we can argue and debate endlessly. It will only put strain on the throat. The arguments and the debates will not touch the root of the problem. And the mind can argue endlessly. But within the person, within the individual, there will be restlessness. The restlessness will continue to exist. So freedom doesn't come from logic nor debates. It comes from deeper understanding and surrender. If the individual longs only for happiness, so Shankara Bhagavad says in this shloka, turn your mind towards the lotus feet of Shambhu. Let that presence hold you. And when the mind is turned towards the lotus feet of Shambhu, the fear dissolves naturally. And this is what Shankara says in this shlokam. He says, He Sudihi, the means buddhi. He Sudihi, Gatova, Mrit Pindo, Apyanurapi, Cha, Dhumo, Dhuma Agni Achalaha, Dhumo Agni Rachalaha, Patova, Tanturva, Gorashamanam, Pariharati Kim, Tarkavachasavrita, Kantakshobam, Vahasi He Shambhoho, Padambojam Bhaja, Tharasa Paramasaukyam Vraja, Gatova Mrit Pindo Apyanurapicha, Dhumo Agni Rachalaha, Dhumo Agni Achalaha, Dhumo Agni Rachalaha, Patova Tanturva Pariharati Kim Gora Shamanam, Vrita Kantakshobam Vahasi Tarasa Tarkavachasa, Padambojam Shambor Bhaja, Paramasaukyam Vraja Sudihi. So yes, human beings, we all have intellectual pursuits, right? And the intellectual pursuits are based on the nature of the person. We constantly debate and argue. And based on the debate, we come to a conclusion, which is the result. And the result is based on how the debate goes. How the debate goes and how the debate concludes. And this is the tendency of the human being. And when you look at the nature of these debates, many are political. And during the medieval period, different sects came up, which included Shaiva, Vaishnava, Shakta, and many sects came up. Specifically during the medieval period. And these groups, these different groups, came up in competition with one another. They also had the support of the kings. And they were competing amongst each of them, among each other. And people became argumentative. And all argumentative people, basically, if you look at the nature of such people who always argue for everything, they don't have good image of themselves. Internally, they don't have good image of themselves. They become very defensive, very touchy. And for example, if you tell to some person who always argues, just go and tell the person, this particular thing is incorrect, this is wrong. And the person will immediately jump on you and will become very angry. And such people cannot take even even a friendly criticism. It is not possible for them. But a person who has got a good image about himself or herself is always ready to listen, ready to respect others' opinion. They will be very open. Maybe this person is right. Even if that particular person is wrong, the individual is wrong, if the individual has got a good image of himself or herself, they're willing to listen. And they're not worried, and it doesn't matter to them. So the personality is very different. All depends upon the image the person carries within himself or herself. And people are very touchy. They don't want any criticism. And they don't want people even to tell them, do this and do that. They don't want anybody to tell them, do this or do that. They get offended. And for such people, surrender becomes very difficult. If you want to know the truth, you should be willing to surrender to the truth. And for such people, surrender becomes very, very difficult. They cannot surrender because they think they are very powerful. Only a person who is powerful can surrender. The weak persons cannot surrender. Because in surrendering, they think that the whole world will know about their personality. They are unwilling to expose their real personality. They know internally they are very weak. They have this inferiority complex. They cannot they cannot surrender. It is very difficult for them. Bowing down to somebody will make them inferior. Only a superior person can bow down. And surrender is possible only if the person has got internal strength. Otherwise, it is not possible. That humility will not exist at all. So here, Shankara is talking about such people who don't have the ability to surrender. They carry a powerful image about themselves. They are very argumentative. They debate for every reason. They find a reason to debate. And here he is talking about tarka. See, tarka means simple reasoning. And sometimes this reasoning does not lead the person anywhere. They go and move around in circles without a goal. See, for example, you have a sword in the hand. You can destroy using this sword. At the same time, the sword cannot create anything, nor it can reveal what it is. A sword can never reveal what it is. It can destroy, it can never create. So this tarka is like that sometimes. Tarka means simple logic. See, you need to understand what is tarka, kutarka, and vitarka. Tarka, kutarka, vitarka. Tarka is simple logic. Whereas kutarka is wrong logic. Always negating everything. Don't worry about whether it is right or wrong. You always try to negate everything. Always start looking everything from a wrong angle. Negative thinking. We say this as negative thinking, isn't it? That negative thinking will lead to suffering. It leads to fear, depression. The person gets locked in an island. And this is the nature of kutarka. Sometimes kutarka protects you in the society. People will never go near you. You always criticize. It can also bring you fame in the society, name and fame. Logic sometimes not only protects you in the society, it also brings you fame and name. And the society will appreciate that you're intelligent because you have a view on everything in life. And this is like scratching a skin. You scratch your skin and it gives you temporary relief. Nothing beyond that. And kutarka causes suffering. And kutarka is wrong logic. And more kutarka the person has got, the more intense will be the suffering. So you have tarka, which is simple logic, kutarka, which is wrong logic. Then you have the third thing, which is vitarka. When you say vitarka, vitarka is ultimate reasoning. It is very straightforward. It is straight logic. And vitarka will always keep the person in easiness. Internally, the person will be very comfortable because of vitarka. See, in kutarka, the person will burn himself or herself. At the same time, the people around, always irritating, always in the sense of irritation, hurting people mentally. And that is violence, isn't it? And that is the nature of kutarka, whereas vitarka keeps the person at ease internally. And people around him also will be at ease. And the person with vitarka has only one question in the mind. The disciple has only one question in the mind. It is about removing the wrong reasoning. So the disciple goes to the guru only to remove the wrong reasoning, and that is vitarka, and vitarka will be magical in life. See, some people enjoy life and others do not. Mainly because the mind is not experiencing the right reasoning, and that is vitarka. Right reasoning is vitarka, and with vitarka, if we have vitarka within ourselves, not kutarka, not tarka, life will become magical. Your mind will be focused only to remove the wrong reasoning. And that brings you a lot of peace inside, happiness inside, peace inside as well as outside. And vitarka with guru will bring you a great joy. Patanjali says this in his Yoga Sutras. Vitarka, vichara, ananda, asmita, rupa, anugamat, samprajnataha. Samprajnata samadhi. Vitarka becomes the foundation for samprajnata samadhi. Vitarka will lead you to vichara. Vitarka means what? Reasoning, the right reasoning will lead you to vichara, which is contemplation. You want to remove the wrong reasoning from your life. So vitarka will lead you to vichara. Vichara will lead you to ananda. Ananda will lead you to asmita, which is a state of pure awareness. And asmita will lead you to samprajnata samadhi. Anugamat samprajnata. Samadhi siddhi ishvara pranidanat. Again, Patanjali Yoga Sutra. Samadhi siddhi ishvara pranidanat. By surrendering to Ishvara, by surrendering to Shiva, one achieves samadhi. So when he says samadhi, samadhi and Ishvara, Patanjali is using samadhi and Ishvara here together, not in isolation. They cannot be separated. Samadhi and Ishvara, samadhi and Shiva cannot be separated. Samadhi means what? Falling in tune with the original source. Falling in tune with from where you came. What is your source? How do you fall in tune with your source from the point from where you originated? So samadhi, adi also means ancient. Di is buddhi, samadhi. Originally you were Shiva. Shiva is your original nature. Then what happened? You moved away from your original nature. You wanted to play the game of life. That one became many to express itself, expanded itself. And in the process, we forgot our original nature as Shiva. Now we have to get back to the original nature. And that state is Samadhi. Samadhi is where you exist. Samadhi is not something you have to achieve. Samadhi is not something you want to attain. It is something, it is your original state. You want to get back to Samadhi, there you need Ishvara to guide you, that Shiva to guide you. So surrendering becomes very important. So we have three types of people. Broadly, you got three categories of people, three categories of mind. Some people are very body oriented. Some are very mind oriented. See, when a person is mind oriented, such a person will live a identity based life. Because the basic things are taken care of. A person who is heavily identified with the body will always look for taking care of basic needs. Then when body is taken care of, then comes the mind. Mind is more important. And such people live an identity-based life. And there is a third category of people who are neither identified with the body and the mind. The sages, the rishis, neither identified with the body and the mind. And how does Ishvara appear to these three categories of people? The body-oriented people, the mind-oriented person, and the person who is neither body or mind-oriented. How does Ishvara appear to such people? Because Ishvara or that Shiva is the ultimate experience. And you can relate to Shiva in any plane of existence. A person may be body-oriented, still such a person can relate to Shiva. A mind-oriented person can relate to Shiva. And the Rishi can relate to Shiva. That Shiva appears to everybody, depend based on whatever plane you exist. Doesn't matter. And if the person is identified with the body, that Shiva, that Ishvara puts you in Saguna. Saguna becomes important. You will have a personal deity in front of you. You want to worship the personal deity. You develop bhakti. So Ishvara puts you in Saguna. If the person is identified with the mind, Ishvara puts you in meditation. And if you are not identified with the body and the mind, Ishvara puts you in Samadhi. Samadhi Siddhi Ishvara Pranidhanat. Vitarka is another important thing. Leave the Tarka alone. Leave the Kutarka outside. Vitarka. Develop that Vitarka. Vitarka, Vichara, Ananda, Asmita, Rupa, Anugamat, Sampragnataha. One will lead you to the other. Vitarka will lead you to Vichara, Vichara to Ananda, ultimately to Sampragnata Samadhi. And here in this shlokam, Shankara speaks about Tarka. Generally, he talks about Tarka. Argumentative people who are interested only in debate. They are not able to move beyond the debate. How will they know the reality? So he begins with He Sudhihi. The buddhi is being expressed here. Sudhihi, Dihi. Shobana buddhi, Sudhihi. Shobana buddhi is Sudhihi. Sudhihi also means people with knowledge. And here he takes the example of pot and clay. Is the pot the reality or clay the reality? How can pot exist without clay? Clay can exist independent of the pot. Pot is nothing but names and forms mounted on the clay. And names and forms don't have independent existence, so it cannot be reality. Or look at the universe. See why these questions are arising. When you want to know the reality, you have three fundamental questions. One is, what is this universe about? What is this universe made of? That is one question. Second is Ishvara. What is this Ishvara about? I want to know Ishvara. Then about me. Who is this? I want to know about myself. So these are the three fundamental questions which arise to know the reality. And that reality is being interpreted in many ways. On certain points in time, it boils down to arguments, debates to understand the reality. So one example is taken here, pot or clay. Whether pot exists at all. Clay is the reality. Does the universe exist at all? Universe is nothing but names and forms. What is the underlying reality behind the universe? Is the universe composed of atoms? For example, a pot is in front of you. You can see the pot. And if the pot is very, very, very close to your eyes, you cannot see the pot. Pot is at a distance, say 1 kilometer from you. That pot will be like a dot. Look at the sky. Stars look like a dot. So what is the truth? For example, a thief will look at a beautiful silver ornament, and for the thief, that ornament is only silver. He will not be able to appreciate anything else in the ornament. And the perception varies from person to person. So the perception of the reality varies from person to person. And in the process, debates spring up, arguments spring up. And where do the debates and arguments take you? And when you look at the Vedas, you have got Karma Kanda and Jnana Kanda. In Karma Kanda, it is about Ekarupa Ishvaraha and Anekarupa Ishvaraha. In Jnana Kandam, it is only about Arupa. To understand the Vedas, one should have knowledge of Mimamsha Shastram, Tarka, Nyaya, Vyakaranam. So you need knowledge of all these to understand the Vedas. However, all these are not an end to themselves. They are only tools, aids. And one must not be stuck only with them. And you should be able to progress beyond. You should be able to progress beyond Mimamsa, Tarka, Nyaya, Vyakaranam to know the truth. These are not the end to themselves. Otherwise, progress is not possible. So in Mundaka Upanishad, you're very popular, very, very familiar with this mantra. Talks about Paravidya and Aparavidya. Tatra para Rigvedo, Yajurveda, Samavedo, Atharvaveda, Shiksha, Kalpo, Vyakaranam, Niruktam, Chando, Jyotishamiti. Atapara Yaya Tad Daksharam Madhikamyate. So this talks about this Anubhuti Swarupam. That Anubhuti Swarupam is Paravidya. And that is Pradhanam. That is the central message of the Vedas. And Vedas have got lot of Shabdakutam, including the Upanishad. And every Shabdakutam is not Paravidya. And to know the reality, you also require a means to acquire the knowledge of the reality. To acquire the knowledge of the reality, you need certain means. And the means or the valid means to acquire knowledge is known as pramanam. And knowledge is about knowing the truth. Pramanam is a tool to acquire the knowledge, and you are very familiar with pramanam. So my intention is not to go into pramanam in this session. I'll briefly mention it. You have different types of pramanam to acquire knowledge. You've got pratyaksha pramanam, anumana, upamana, shabda, arthapati, anupalabdhi. So you have all this. And we have discussed this extensively in our Upanishad sessions. Then you got the Vaisheshika Nyaya Shastras. The Nyaya will recognize only four pramanams: Pratyaksha, Anumana, Upamana, and Shabda Pramanam. And certain dharmas in our culture, say for example, Buddhism, will accept only Pratyaksham and Anumanam as valid knowledge sources. Advaita will accept all the six pramanam. Vaisheshika will speak about Parama Anu. Anu means an atom. And it says the universe is comprised of atoms fundamentally. That is the fundamental structure of the universe. You talk about the physical matter, the five Panchabhutas. So it will talk about molecules, it will talk about atoms. So it goes into many things, Vaisheshika. So all these are existing only to figure out what is the nature of the reality. How do I acquire the real knowledge on the nature of the reality? So every darshana will have their own views, and invariably it goes into debates and arguments. Fundamentally, what is the purpose? To establish one's supremacy. In the process, the truth is forgotten. People are not able to go beyond the debates and arguments. And that is what Shankara Bhagavad in this shloka is trying to communicate. What is the use of all this if you are not able to touch the reality? He Sudihi Gatova. Gata means what? Pot. Let it be. May it be pots. Gatova. Mritpindaha. A lump of clay. You argue whether the pot came out of the clay, which is the reality. Gatova Mritpinda Anurapi. Atom. Let it be even the atoms. May it even be the atoms. Anurapi cha. So when you say gata here, gatova, gata, it indicates pratyaksha pramana. Dhumaha. Dhuma means smoke. Dhumaha agni achalaha. Agni is fire. Dhumaha is smoke. And achalaha is a mountain. Let it be the mountain. Let it be the agni. Let it be the smoke. Here you are talking about Anumana Pramana. So these are the terminologies appearing in Nyaya Shastra. And through which we come up with inferences. Is the pot the truth or the clay the truth? Or sometimes you also take certain other examples. You take a cloth and the thread. Can the cloth exist without the thread? Cloth is nothing but name and form superimposed on the thread. Thread becomes the reality. So then you go and say that the names and forms in the world are superimposed on that one particular reality, which is Brahman. So you take all these examples as comparisons. Patova tanturva. Tantu means a thread. Patova. Pata is a piece of cloth. Let it be a piece of cloth or a thread. So you can say that there is no cloth without the thread. And all these words are used in Tarka Shastram. Gatova, Mritpindaha, Anu, Tantu, Pata, Gatova, Mritpindaha, Anurapi, Cha, Dhumaha, Agnihi, Achalaha, Patova, Tanturva. All these are part of Tarka Shastram. And a lot of them are being discussed about Karana and Karya in various ways. So Shankara Bhagavad is asking here, what is the point of doing endless analysis? What is the point of doing endless analysis just for the sake of analysis? And you don't reach anywhere. You may continue arguing the entire life, but ultimately, in the end, you have to face Yama in the end. Can you escape from Yama? How prepared are you when the death stands in front of you? Is this logic going to help you? Is Tarkashastram going to help you? So, will this save you from Yama? So, that is what the question here is. When it talks about Yama, Shankara is not talking about the fear of Yama. How much you understand about life and death? How prepared are you to face death? And the meaning of all these words is said as Gorashamanam. All these words, Gatova, Mritpindaha, Anurapi, Agni, Achalaha, all these words you use to debate endlessly. Shankara calls all this as Yama, Gorashamanam, Yama, the Lord of Death. So using words from Nyaya Shastra and debating is of no use, he says. Shamana also means end, encounter, stop. So he is using this in the context of Yama, encountering Yama, Shamana, Gora Shamanam, encountering Yama. And what does Yama do? Yama comes and investigates what is Dharma and what is Adharma for the particular individual. Gora means terrible. And some point in time, Yama is going to come and stand in front of you. How prepared are you? Is this logic going to help you? Debates going to help you? And Shankara says, if you are seeking liberation, moksha, all these are unnecessary. The arguments are unnecessary. Debates are unnecessary. Because moksha becomes the purpose of your life. Did Markandeya use any logic when Yama appeared in front of him? How did Markandeya encounter Yama? You know the story of Markandeya. Kalari Murti, Kala Samhara Murti. So Shiva appeared as Kalari and kicked Kala, who is Yama in Markandeya Purana. This place called Tirukadayur. I'm just mentioning some places in South India. So it has got a beautiful temple, Tirukadayur. And there is Kala Samhara Murti. And you know the Shivalinga story and Markandeya, right? Shiva appeared and kicked Yama. And Shiva granted moksha to Markandeya. It is said as Shiva grants him boon for a long life, everlasting life at a very young age. And it is said that this particular incident took place in the very place, Tirukadayur. That is the belief. And that particular temple is very prominent, and it is one of the centers of pilgrimage. So a lot of people go there, especially people who cross 60 years, and the couple go there. And it's a beautiful sculpture. See, look at how this sculpture visualizes the whole scene about Markandeya, Yama and Shiva. So Markandeya stands with folded hands in Namaskaram in the sculpture. And he's trembling a bit. It's beautifully depicted. He's trembling a bit. You can see that in that sculpture because Yama is standing in front of him. And the trembling signifies that the fear is leaving Markandeya. It is not that Markandeya is trembling in fear. When the fear is going out of Markandeya, you can see that as in the form of trembling. We all tremble because of fear, isn't it? And Yama is falling apart with his head hanging on one side. On the other side, Yama has thrown the pasha, the nose, and Shiva has caught hold of it and is kicking Yama in one leg. Very beautifully depicted in the Tirukadayur temple. And then if you go to the Brihadishwara temple in Tanjavur, it is shown even more grandly. The fury of Shiva and the helplessness of Yama. Yama is actually scared, trying to drag Markandeya, and he is holding onto the Shivalinga very tightly. And the sculptor is seeing it as though, is sculpting it as though he has seen it happening. Very beautiful sculpting. Then you are looking at it, looking at the sculpture, you will wonder, what liberated Markandeya. So when Yama comes to see Markandeya held on to Shiva tightly. And the question is, what will be our state during the final moment? Will we leave Shiva and run away, be terrified at the sight of Yama? See Yama and run away. Leave Shiva also and run away. What will be our state during the final moment? And the mind should have the strength of Markandeya. That clarity, that faith. And how did this come? And look at Markandeya. He knows that he is going to die when he is 16 years. So he meditates on Shiva. And the final moment comes. And Shiva says, don't worry, I am there. Then Markandeya thinks, how is it possible? How is it possible? Shiva says, I am there. I am going to give you immortality, deathlessness to you. So the thought arises in Markandeya, how is it possible? My ancestors have passed away, right? How is Shiva saying that I'll be protected? And Shiva says, don't worry, I'll protect you. And Markandeya has got 100% faith. And Yama comes, and Markandeya continues to meditate on Shiva during that moment, and that is the state of the mind. So when Yama appears in that final moment of death, which comes to us, what will be the state of my mind, state of our mind? Will we be meditating on Shiva, or will we be running away or gripped with fear? So it's a beautiful story. And look at Yama. See, Yama only represents that Ishvara. Ishvara has assigned the job to Yama. And why did that same Ishvara, that Shiva, come down and kick Yama in front of Markandeya? Is it not unfair? Yama is only doing his job. You can understand this in a different way. Shiva's leg is Anugraha. And the reason is, when Markandeya holds Shiva, is transcending all the tattvas. And that is the secret. And Markandeya is crossing the Kala tattva, and Yama is trying to stop him. And Shiva says, don't stop him, he is pushing Yama away. It is like this. If you got a gated community, you want to escape the gates and go out, there is a security in front of the gate. They are not allowing you to go out. And here Yama is just holding the gate. So Shiva is just pushing him. Let Markandeya go. And Markandeya transcends the Kala Tattva. Beautiful story in Markandeya Purana is about how can we cross the Kala Tattvam. Kala is Yama. And Kala Tattvam is different from what we understand about time. That Kala Tattvam manifests in every Tattva. See, for example, in any action we do, see, we all live in a particular place, isn't it? And we carry out actions, we experience life. For any action you do, for any experience you want to encounter, it will require place and time. See, without place and time, you cannot experience anything. And we are able to visualize the space. Space is desha. Desha we can notice. See, we see around there is desha, right? Which is visible to us in gross form, this thulam, gross form. Whereas that kala is not visible to us. Kala is sukshmam. For anything you want to experience, you need both of them together, kala and desha. Kala is visible to, desha is visible to us, kala is not visible to us. We operate in kala, we don't operate in desha. That we have to realize. Most of us do not realize that we operate in kala, not in desha. If we understand it, then alone we will be able to transcend the Kala Tattvam. And Shiva comes here to Open the gates. He's asking Yama to open the gate. Don't hold them. Let them go. So that's how you understand the Łaҳᶖඏήᶏήᶁả, this particular story in Markandeya Purana. So Łaҳᶖᶏήᶏήᶁ in this beautiful temple, Tirukadayur, there's also a story here also. See, Tirukadayur, Gata, you know what is Gata? Gata is pot. So there is a small Puranic story associated here. You had during the Samudra Matana, churning of the cosmic ocean to get the nectar of immortality, Vishnu, Indra and the other devas needed a place to consume the Amrita, and they brought the Amrita to this particular place. And they were about to consume the Amrita, they forgot Ganapati there. See, normally any activity you begin, you worship Ganapati first. So they never had this Ganapati in their mind. They were about to consume, and that time Ganesha appears and grabs the pot from them. And what Ganapati does is, he creates a Shivalingam and pours this Amrita over the Shivalingam. And that is said to be that Shivalingam. The Shivalingam is known as Amrita Gata Ishvara, the Lord of Immortality. So that is what this linga is about in this particular temple. And in this temple, there is also this Devi. This Devi is known as Abhirami. And there is also another beautiful story associated with Abhirami. This happened. This is how the history is. Somewhere, I don't exactly remember what period in time. So that particular geography was ruled by Marathas. So Sarfoji was the king during that time. So in this particular temple, there was a Shakti Upasaka. He's known as Abhirami Bhatta. His original name was Subramanya. And his mind was always in that state of ecstasy. And he was seen as a madman by the people around. He used to chase the woman. He sees the woman as divinity, as that Abhirami herself, to shower the woman with flowers. And the woman naturally will be afraid of him. This person was always in deep meditation. And that time, this king comes into the temple. Everybody gets up. This person doesn't get up. He's sitting somewhere in the corner. The king is very anxious. He's also irritated. Why is this person not respecting me? And he's sitting in meditation. So the king goes near this person and shakes him and asks a question. Tell me what day it is, what tithi it is. And that day is supposed to be Amavasya. And Abhirami Bhatta, he's always meditating on that Abhirami, and his mind is filled with the tejas of Abhirami. So he says today is Paurnami. Today happens to be Amavasya, but he says it is Paurnami. And the king is more irritated. So he says, he knows it is a wrong tithi. He says, tonight, if the moon does not rise in the sky, he says, I will burn you. That's your punishment. Now, the Abhirami Bhatta, Subramanya is now suspended on those days, the punishment used to be like this. They used to be suspended on a wooden deck, and underneath the wooden deck, the fire will be blazing. They'll keep on feeding logs into the fire. At some point in time, the fire will rise and consume the person. So he is actually put on this blazing, he's put on this wooden deck, which is hung on ropes. And there is fire below. And the evening is slowly coming. The moon is not going to rise this day, because that day was Amavasya. And during that moment, he composes a very beautiful stotram called Abhirami Antadi on goddess Abhirami. So he composes it. And that time what happens is, the king goes back to his palace and a dream appears in his sleep. In the dream, the goddess appears and she removes her kundalam, her earring, and throws it on the sky, and the kundalam becomes a full moon which shines across the universe, and he's experiencing this in his dream. And the dream was so intense and powerful, he wakes up from the dream. Then he rushes to the temple, and then obviously, all the story. Then from then the story goes. So he apologizes to him. So this is how the story goes. Okay, but there's a small story about this temple. Łaஹ்ᶖ̂ꯚᶏήᶏήᶁả in Tirukadayur is a very beautiful temple. You can visit if you got chance to go, to that part of the geography. Purpose of all this is to make your senses know. Provide the senses with the knowledge. And that knowledge should come to the mind. The knowledge should ultimately reach the mind, isn't it? Through the senses. See, whatever pramanam you use, whatever shastram, tarka shastram, vaisheshika, nyaya, whatever you use, ultimately the knowledge should come to the mind, and that knowledge should transform the person. And without that, what is the use? And that is the question Shankara Bhagavad-pada is asking in this shloka. Endless debates, endless arguments. What is the use if the knowledge does not reach your mind and ultimately transform you to know the reality? So in this temple, it is also famous for that 60th birthday celebrations, which is Sashti Apta-purti. See, Sashti, as you know, is 60, and Abdha is a year, and Purti is completion. When the person crosses 60 years, normally the husband and wife go into the temple and they perform a ceremony. So this temple is also famous for that particular ceremony. And when you look at the Vedas determine the human lifetime as 120 years. For a human being was lived a full life. So 120 years is considered the span of human life. And here, when people complete that 50% of that, which is 60th year, they go into the temple. And the motivation for the people to go there is all this, whatever we spoke about now, the Markandeya, then the Shiva there. So a lot of motivation. So people go there fundamentally for long life, healthy life, happiness. For a lot of purpose, they go there to celebrate their Sashti Apta-purti. But the Sashti Apta-purti should also have an inner objective. See, Markandeya's aspiration was moksha, nothing else. So he clung to Łaஹ்ᶖ̂ꯚᶏήᶏήᶁ not out of fear, but a longing to dissolve the samsara. So when the samsara dissolves, happiness naturally arises. And that is the state of immortality. When you transcend samsara, it is immortality. And that is the purpose of all this. So especially when people go there for Sashti Apta-purti, they should have this inner objective. See, crossing 60 years is not merely a celebration of longevity. It is about the invitation to loosen the knots of the worldly entanglement. So at this stage, the seed of vanaprastha must begin to take the root in the person. Otherwise, what is the use? The mind should gently turn inwards. And there should be conscious preparation to step back from the compulsion of engagement, entanglement, accumulation. And the mind should turn towards the self. Life should become more simple, more deeper. And that is the purpose of Sashti Apta-purti. I don't know how many people understand and follow it. It's a different subject altogether. Since, I spoke about this temple, I just wanted to mention it. So we'll come back to the shloka. So Shankara is asking one question here. What is the point of doing logical analysis using tarka just for the sake of analysis and reaching nowhere? So you can continuously argue and debate throughout your lifetime, but Yama comes in front of you. How prepared are you? Is the logic going to save you from Yama? Pariharati kim? Pariharati kim? Can all this prevent you from facing Yama? Or can all this prevent you from Yama reaching us? Pariharati kim? Tarkavachasa. All this words, all this knowledge about Tarka, Nyaya, Shastra, Vrita, unnecessary. Tarkavachasa Vrita. Tarkavachasa is also about the continuous flow of words. See, for example, if a person is angry, that person will speak continuously and use the words more than a normal person. Angry people will use lot of words. Tarkavachasa. So, pariharati kim tarkavachasa kantakshobam. All this cause only agitation to the throat. Vahasi is what you get. This is what you get. Then what do? Padambojam bhaja tarasa paramasaukyam vraja. So there are two verbs which are being used here, vraja and bhaja. If you are a sensible person, you will do this. That is the straightforward meaning. Hey Shambhu, one who gives, Shambhu means what? The one who gives happiness. Shambhu is auspiciousness alone. Padambojam, the lotus feet of Shambhu, bhaja, praise that lotus feet of Shiva, worship that lotus feet of Shiva. Paramasaukyam vraja, you will attain that paramasaukyam. You will walk out of samsara. Tarkavachasa is also samsara. You will walk out of this tarkavachasa, and that is paramasaukyam. Immediately tarasa, padambojam bhaja, tarasa, paramasaukyam vraja. In that Kathopanishad, there is another beautiful mantra. Yesha sarvesha bhuteshu gudotmana prakashate drishyate tvagrayaya buddhya sukshmaya sukshmadarshibihi. So to know that reality, that vastu which is sukshma, you also need sukshma buddhi. The Shiva tattvam, the Atma tattvam requires a sukshma buddhi. And you cannot know it using logic. Sukshma darshibihi drishyate. Vyasa also says, so you study all the scriptures, having studied the scriptures, having contemplated that on that again and again. Alodya sarvashastrani vicharya cha punaha punaha. Alodya sarvashastrani, having studied the scriptures and does vichara on the scriptures again and again. Vicharya cha punaha punaha. What is the conclusion are you going to reach in the end? Idamekam. Idamekam sunishpannam dhyeyo narayanaha sada. That Narayana alone is the paramount, that alone is the truth. Here Narayana is equivalent to Brahman. That Brahman alone is the truth. Whatever scriptures you read, you have to have Shravanam is so important. Go through them again and again. Manana. All your doubts are cleared. What remains in the end is only the knowledge of that one truth. That is the purpose of this Vedas, isn't it? Alotya sarva shastrani vicharya cha punaha punaha idamekam sunishpannam dhyeyo narayanaha sada. That is the essence of this shloka. So in this shloka, Shankara says, He Sudihi Gatova Mrit Pindo Yanurapi cha Dhumo Agni Achalaha धूमो अग्निरचलः पटो वा तन्तुर्वा घोरशमनं पटो वा तन्तुर्वा घोरशमनं परिहरति किं तर्कवचसा वृता कण्ठक्षोभं वहसि हे शम्भोः पदाम्बोजं भज परसा परमसौख्यं व्रज.
घटो वा मृत्पिण्डोऽप्यणुरपि च धूमोऽग्निरचलः पटो वा तन्तुर्वा परिहरति किं घोरशमनम् वृथा कण्ठक्षोभं वहसि तरसा तर्कवचसा पदाम्भोजं शम्भो भज परमसौख्यं व्रज सुधीः.
Very nice. So that is enough for today. We'll continue the next shloka in the next session.
सदाशिवसमारम्भां शङ्कराचार्यमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्परां
श्रुतिस्मृतिपुराणानाम् आलयं नमामि भगवत्पादशङ्करं लोकशङ्करम्. हरि ओम जी. हरि ओम.